Not limited to the East, the idea of soul travel also existed in the New World. Native Americans related to European settlers that they were able to pass in and out of their physical bodies at will. These ancient abilities gave rise to the allegorical legends of the Shadowlands or World of Ghosts, which were often held in high esteem. Even within some Inuit groups, certain people with special capabilities are said to have the ability to travel to mythological, remote places, reporting the experiences back to their communities. Such travelers relate information concerning successful hunting techniques or ways to cure the sick, concepts that would otherwise have been unavailable to others who lack the proper visionary techniques or abilities. The next several sections will explain the symbols within all worldwide cultures to represent the pineal gland, the energetic pathways known as the Ida in Pingala, and the central rod in which they are entangled, known as the Sushumna. The first on our list, and possibly the most recognizable, are the eyes of Horus, Ra being the right and Thoth being the left, symbolically representing the two hemispheres of the brain, solar, lunar, masculine, feminine. However, as a single image, it has been used to represent the pineal gland. Next is the talak or bindi, a mark or jewel worn on the outside of the forehead to depict the pineal gland. Then the serpent or dragon, which can be found in almost all cultures across the world. Which leaves us to our last symbol, the pine cone. Other than the obvious being the pineal gland or the third eye, the pine cone also symbolizes enlightenment and immortality, rebirth and creative energy, masculine energy, fire for its ancient use as a fire starter, protection, fertility, sacred geometry. The Fibonacci spirals are visible by looking at the base of most pine cones. Much like the serpent, the pine cone can also be found in nearly all cultures. The largest pine cone in the world can be found at the Vatican City in Rome. It stands almost 4 meters high. Chapter 2. Body, Mind, Spirit. As stated previously, I've struggled with depression, anger, anxiety, and weight issues for most of my life. The last few years, however, these issues have no longer plagued me, at least have become manageable. Once the internal spiritual vibratory frequency is heightened, changes within the body and mind automatically follow suit. When Kundalini and Shakti begin to ascend, we can live our lives with a deeper, transcendental awareness and understanding, defined purpose and incredible power. You eventually become free of all of the beliefs and patterns that held you so tightly bound in your body and mind, causing suffering. In fact, the whole process is quite miraculous and is charged with inherent beauty. Yet, it isn't always easy. You have to really let go and surrender the ego, and sometimes there is pain as you let go of the past stored in the body and mind, even right down to the level of your DNA. In fact, for teachers and students alike, there are a few key signs that indicate someone is experiencing a Kundalini awakening. First, they may feel increased pranic energy in their body, often starting at the hands and feet. Later, particularly in the spine, this energy may cause physical sensations like tingling, shaking, or heat. Secondly, they may begin to experience powerful emotions and thoughts that they have previously suppressed. These may include long buried trauma or deep-seated fears. Finally, they may start to see changes in their behaviors, relationships, and perceptions. For some, this may include hallucinations or synesthesia, seeing colors when hearing music, for example, or extreme bodily sensations. Melatonin already causes us to relax, But now, it's going to begin to produce what is called benzodiazepine. These chemicals fit into the same receptors as serotonin and melatonin, but they carry a very different message. The release of these benzodiazepines is literally going to sedate further the neocortex and shut down the survival centers in the brain. There's a suppression of overthinking, overanalyzing, of thinking about the future, of the past. The body relaxes into the present moment. Take that molecule and tweak it again, and you have the most powerful hallucinogenic known to man, N,N-dimethyltryptamine, DMT. And now the person is going to have a profound, lucid, inner vision. In other words, melatonin already causes us to sleep. But when it becomes a transducer, that frequency then is transduced into profound imagery, the same way a TV antenna takes frequency and turns it into a picture. The pineal gland has been called the third eye because we're having a profound inner vision that is more real than the world we live in. And we can say then, the person is having a full-on sensory experience without their senses. A second chemical made from the posterior pituitary called vasopressin, an antidiuretic hormone. And when vasopressin levels are elevated, the cells of the body now are able to store more water. And as a result of this, the cells are prepared for a greater frequency. And all of the cells now begin to oscillate and produce more coherent light and information. We could say, in one moment, the person's getting a biological upgrade. Information from the field is literally changing the human operating system. Words by Mr. Joe Dispenza. This abrupt change in body, mind, and soul leads us to our next section, neuroplasticity. There is not always fertile ground for creating change. Sometimes something must give, but just like your closet must be occasionally purged in order to make room for something new, you can create space for change by replacing something old with something new. This is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the term used to describe the brain's innate ability to adapt at the physiological level to stimuli. At its core, it is the process by which all permanent learning takes place in your brain. Learning a musical instrument, a foreign language, or driving a car are all encoded in your brains based on repetitive thoughts, actions, and emotions that create neuropathways. Actual physical structures in our brains that incrementally make these functions more efficient over time. This efficiency is not always a positive thing, but we will get to that later. Our eternal ability to adapt. The fact that our brains come to be as a function of our environment seems rather obvious. What makes this adaptive quality so interesting is that it takes the long-standing belief that our brains are hardwired, and it turns it on its head. Up until recently, the prevailing belief was that at some point in the early adulthood, our brains become fixed at whatever exists at this point of maturation. Because the rigid framework of our brains, this follows the intuitive belief that at some point after puberty we are stuck with the brains that we have. This notion is easily reinforced by plenty of observable evidence as to the ease at which children acquire new skills relative to adults. Anyone who has attempted to learn a new language in midlife can attest.